Hello, lovelies. Sweet Georgia Pam here, spiritual director, dream expert, and author. And I want to talk to you today about nightmares. Nightmares. Like, here we are. It is Halloween is right around the corner. There are things now that are coming into our view. If you're highly sensitive like me, like, listen, I do not do scary. I do not do scary at all, and I do not do violence. Like those two things I avoid actively in my life. And yet, this time of year, I can't avoid scary movie trailers, Halloween stores, scary stories in the news. It's unavoidable that I'm going to encounter a fright or several frights. So this video is all about how to lessen your chances of having a nightmare based on all the scary stuff that you're running into, I'm running into in waking life right now, and how to prepare in case a nightmare creeps up and happens anyway, even though you're working very actively to discourage your mind to throw a nightmare your way. Okay, so if you run into a scary scene in your waking life that you don't acknowledge or unpack or talk about, then those things are more likely to pop up in your dream state, right? Okay, so dreams are our mind's way of putting a story around feelings, right? Dreams are our mind's way of helping us learn from emotional experiences. Because here's the thing, emotions are invisible. They happen on the inside, and we can't see them in order to interact with them to learn from them, okay? So our mind produces dreams so that we can see our emotional experiences and interact with them and learn from them, okay? That's kind of the very basic of what our dreams are about mostly. They're pretty layered and they have a lot more depth and complexity to them, but basically they're like stories our mind creates so that we can learn from our emotions, okay? So when we have a sudden fright, it brings up a sudden rat's nest of negative emotions that we were not ready for or expecting, okay? So something jumps out at us in whatever capacity, and my heart races and my stomach is in knots, and I get all of these scary emotional responses that come up that are instinctual in me, right? And my mind goes, well, that was strange. We haven't seen that before. How do we protect ourselves going forward, right? Seems like we should sit with that experience a little bit longer. So if there is an emotion, a negative emotion, if there is a spike in our negative emotions, usually we do two things. We pretend it didn't happen, because nobody wants to feel that stuff. And the way that we pretend it didn't happen is we try to move on as quickly as possible, right? And specifically, like if you're watching a scary movie and the monster jumps out and you go like, ah, the movie moves on for you, right? So we move on really quickly, and we don't even let ourselves see how scared we were. So on a unconscious level, you're going to repress some of that expression of that experience because it felt like it was going to kill you. You thought you were going to die for just a quick moment, and we knew it wasn't real. Like logically, we explained it away, but emotionally, it felt very threatening. So we repress a lot of the emotional intensity of the emotional energy that we experienced, and we move on very quickly and conform oh, glad that wasn't real, whew, and we move on. So those two things are what build up that emotion, the energy of that emotion in our unconscious, because we aren't looking at it. We aren't allowing it to like move through our body and like be fully expressed. And so our dream goes, oh, that's something that you want me to show you so that we can work on it a little bit longer. It's just not true. So how do you avoid scary nightmares based on all of our experiences right now in Halloween time? And how do we lessen the intensity of our nightmares during this time of year, or any time really, but it's Halloween, so this is an appropriate time for this video. So here's all you have to do. You have to talk about what scared you today before you get ready for bed, okay? So sometimes, I'm not a scary movie person, but every once in a while, my family, who loves Halloween for some reason, will convince me, like, come on, it's not so bad. Just watch it. It'll be fine. I'm like, okay, sure. So sometimes I watch scary movies, and what I do purposefully before I get ready for bed, like at dinner time, usually we watch movies late at night, so I'll stay up a little bit longer in order to do this one thing before I get ready for bed. And what you have to do is you have to talk about it. You have to go, okay, the scariest part of that movie for me was X. And now that because I'm awake, I'm safe, I'm in my logical waking mind, and I know none of that was real on a logical level. The scariest part was this, and these are all the things that went through my mind. This is how my body responded. You just unpack as much of it as you can while you do not feel scared, right? Or even if you do feel a little bit scared, I can say, like, even now I feel this is happening in my body. So you address it, face it. In waking life, when you're safe, when you're surrounded by people who will talk about it with you before you get ready for bed. And what that does is it lessens the likelihood of that image or that specific fear showing up in your dreams because you have not repressed it. And even if it does show up in your dreams, you've prepared yourself to understand it when you wake up. And that is so helpful when you wake up from a scary dream and you go like, oh my God, oh, it's awful, oh, but I know what it's about. And suddenly that terrifying dream experience doesn't haunt you for the rest of the day or the rest of the week because you're like, it's gonna return. I don't know what that is. I'm being haunted. This thing is coming after me. It's not coming after you because you have connected it to your waking life. And so you've stopped moving on. Like you're like, okay, I'm not going to move on. I'm terrified right now. Let's discuss, right? I'm going to unpack this terrifying sensation. What are all my thoughts? How do I feel? What's my body doing in response to this terrifying sensation? So I've refused to just move on from it. I'm like, stop, sit with it, be with it. And I'm releasing as much of the repression as I can, right? I can tell you what my body is doing, right? So that's how my body is trying to like hang on to that emotion so we don't have to actually feel it or release it or let it move through. So I'm hanging on to it, right? So by talking about it, I kind of negate that natural response that we have in waking life. Something terrifying happens and we refuse to even acknowledge to ourselves that we've experienced this full depth, and we move on really quickly. Well, let's just not do that. Let's sit down and go, you know what, something really scary happened today, and I just want to talk about it so that it doesn't come back to me in my dream space. I'm not going to repress it so that it doesn't have any energy, any pent up power or energy for my dream to like connect to pull up in that dream space. Okay, I hope that is helpful. If it is helpful in any way, please like and subscribe and do all the like nice things so that I know that you're out there and that you're listening, and I can continue to provide more tips about dreams and emotional intelligence and kind of how to learn from your dreaming mind, because that's what it's there for. Okay, I hope you have the sweetest dreams in the world tonight and that all of these tips really help you. Okay, sweet dreams. Bye.